Something pretty big happened to me last month. I passed my interview and test for United States citizenship. Soon I will be one of you. Because I thought, now is a good time. I heard soon things are going to be pretty wonderful around here. So I thought I'd jump on that train while I could. So I was in the interview with the immigration agent, lovely young woman, and she started off by asking me just some general questions about my life. She wants to know where I've lived, and I've lived in a lot of different countries, so she wanted to know the years I'd lived there and what jobs I'd had. And then we got into my personal kind of family history. So she said, do you have any kids? And I said, yes, I've got 2 daughters. And then she said, do you have any more? And I don't know about you, but like when someone asks me that, I just tend to give one comprehensive answer. I don't say, I got 2 girls, and then later, I got a boy. And another girl. It's one and done for me. And so then she asked, almost like woman to woman, she was like, you don't have any babies in any other countries? No. Because they come out of your vagina, so it's memorable. I feel like I would remember that. She wanted to know what my criminal history was. Specifically, she was interested in kidnapping. Not whether I'd been kidnapped, but my history of kidnapping other people. So she said, have you ever kidnapped anyone? And I said, no. And then she broke it down for me a little bit. English is my first language, but that didn't stop her. She said, have you ever detained anyone in any way against their will? Still no. She kind of went off script a little bit, and she got a little bit, she's like, have you ever shut anyone in where they didn't want to be? No! Like I handcuffed a guy to a bedpost once, and I'm pretty sure he wanted me to do that. I didn't mention that. And then we got to the final part of the interview, which was really kind of the crowning kind of topping of the interview. Everything else was foreplay, really, to get to this part of the interview. She said, are you a terrorist? That's how they check. And I said, no. But no, that wasn't enough. She said, do you know any terrorists? I said, no. And she said, do you belong to any terrorist organizations? And I said, no. And I thought to myself, those 2 questions are a little bit redundant, but I didn't think it was appropriate to critique her at that time. She said, have you ever run guns for terrorists? I barely know what that means, but I'm pretty sure no. She said, do you like terrorists? I said, no, I do not like terrorists. I do not like them in a boat. I do not like terrorists. I do not like them, Uncle Sam. So a little bit about me. I feel like you already know a lot. I'm not a terrorist, so we've covered a lot of ground. I grew up in a trailer park. Anybody? Woo! There's always a few things. It's hard to find my kind of people in fancy places like this. It's okay. And I'm not trying to stand up here and be all like, oh, I'm so much better than you, because I grew up in a home that can move. Our parents just make different choices. Her parents decided to buy a house with a foundation, which is fine. My parents bought a home that could lift into the air and then magically spin around in a strong wind. I did eventually grow up, get out of the trailer park. I went to college. Thank you. Hold your applause. I had a good time in college. I was at a party one night, and this really hot guy was talking to me. And on a scale of 1 to 10, he was like a 9, and I was like a 6. It was a Canadian college, and late 80s. Exchange rate was around 65 cents on the dollar, so technically I was closer to an American 4, but we could just agree I was a 6. This makes me feel better. And he asked me out. And you guys, I knew it could never last, you know, but when you're a 6 and God opens the door and a 9 walks in, I'm pretty sure God wants you to have sex with that 9. And who am I to question his will? So eventually got married. I've been married for a while now. And there's this myth out there, I don't know if you guys have heard it, but there's this myth that once you've been married for a while, your sex life goes downhill. I gotta tell you, that's just not true. My husband and I have been married for about 12 years, and we still have sex almost every month. It could be any day of the month. It's usually the first Wednesday, but it doesn't have to be. So last Wednesday, we're headed into the bedroom, and my husband's got this special talent. He can do really good vocal impressions of famous people. It's a little something he likes to bring to the game, if you know what I'm saying. So we're headed in, and unfortunately that night, he chooses the voice of Garrison Keillor, the elderly former NPR host of Prairie Home Companion. And I said, babe, I don't think that's going to work. And he looked sad because he worked really hard on the voice. And I said, could you just pick someone cooler? And for those of you who don't know who Garrison Keillor is, it's enough to know that the category of people who are cooler than Garrison Keillor is pretty much the rest of the world. You got a lot to pick from. So we keep going on into the bedroom. I pull out my flannel pajamas, turn off the light, and get in the bed and close my eyes. That's how I like to get my freak on. And out of the darkness, I hear the voice of Morgan Freeman. And I think to myself, Garrison Keillor, Morgan Freeman, my husband thinks he's married to a 75-year-old woman. But we maintain focus. We have a great night. My husband has an especially strong finish. He ends the night with a stirring rendition of the last monologue from Shawshank Redemption. So we do have a couple of daughters, a 9 and an 11-year-old, and I'm always trying to be a better parent. Like you can probably already tell, I'm a pretty good one, but room for improvement. I was reading an article in the fall, a parenting article, and it said the single most effective thing that you can do to ensure that your kids will be successful is to give them chores. I thought that was great news. I call my daughters over, I tell them all about it. And then later that day, we were out in the garden, so we were pulling up the garden at the end of the season. And after about 20 minutes, my 11-year-old stands up. She takes off her gardening gloves. She throws them on the ground. And she says, I don't even want to be successful. Which honestly was a bit of a relief. Because we've been renovating the kitchen, and we've been really struggling with whether or not to dig into her college funds for the granite countertops. I feel like she kind of gave us the green light.